for me, it was really cultivating the faith within me, cultivating the voice of faith within me. I look at it like this, right? When you plant an apple tree, the tree is in the seed. You don't give it the apples. It's already in the seed. You just have to put the seed in the right soil. Seed, soil, and harvest, right? So trust what's in your seed. Get to know that. And a lot of times it's already in you. So cultivate that.
Welcome to AudioLife, where we record your story in your voice. I'm your host today, Carrie Purcell, and today, on March 20th, 2024, it is my pleasure to be speaking with my friend, a brilliant businesswoman, a superstar mother of 4 beautiful girls, a wife, a daughter, and so much more, Deanna Hurn. Deanna, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited, and I have no idea what we're going to talk about, but I'm all for it because it's you, Carrie.
Well, I'm excited too, and I'm glad you stated it that way, because really what we're going to talk about today is you. At AudioLife, we are going to talk about the brilliant work that you do in brain-based learning, and I know it's heart-led work, and some of your professional accolades. But we're also really just going to talk about you. We want to look at the factors in your life, your upbringing, your lessons, your surroundings, your teachers that help to form and inform the amazing woman that you've become. So that's what we're doing today.
Let's do it.
All right. And we're going to start right at the very beginning. Again, these are all questions about you. You know the answers, and you're going to share your story, but we want to start right where it all started. Tell us where you were born, and is there a story behind your name?
Wow. Okay. This is great. I'm really excited. You know what? I want to say this really quick before I kind of dive in. I'm really in a place of reflection and gratitude right now. And just even when you invited me in, I trust you. I love the conversations that we have, even offline. But I think it's such a beautiful alignment to have this conversation, because it's a reflection of the space that I'm in, just to look over my life and look at where I'm at now and what's ahead of me, and just sit in gratitude. So I was born in Texarkana, Arkansas. Yeah. So my mom is actually, my family is from a little town called Ashdown, where it was so small that we always make this joke. It's so small that when you're walking up the street, you see someone that you might think is attractive. You have to be mindful, because that might be your cousin. Your relative, So, but I am from Texarkana, Arkansas, and definitely a story. I think, I really give so much honor to my mom. She was born and raised in Arkansas, and I had the privilege of going back south with my mom some years ago, I'm going to say 4 years ago, when my grandmother passed, who I'm named after. Her name is Deanna. She named me Deanna. Yeah. And she passed, and I went back home with my mom. And my mom was the very first one out of all of her brothers and sisters, and there was 8 of them, that moved from Arkansas to come to California. My mom was the one that left everything to start a new life, in California. And she left when I was about 2. And she was married to my father. They were together through high school, and things just didn't quite work out. And she wanted a better path for us, a healthier space for us to grow up in. And she moved out to California, where she met my stepfather, who raised me, who was also a pastor, and loved me as if I were his own. I mean, they had to tell me that wasn't my biological father. That's just how they raised us. They raised us like we were like the Brady Bunch. She had her kids, he had his, and no one said stepdad or stepmom. It was mom, dad, and they did everything in sync together. But I got a chance to get to know my mom's story a little bit more, when we went back. And this is 4 years ago, because there were just things that she just didn't talk about all the time.
Yes.
So I just, I give so much honor to my mom for the courage,
Yes.
that she had to like leave everything that she knew to come into the unknown for the sake of her children and for the sake of her future, but still, has so much history and family, and all my aunts and aunties and uncles are there, and it was so nice to be able to spend that time with them as well. So that's a little bit about my story.
Wow.
This is so cool
Oh,
to be able to talk about this. My
it's
gosh.
so incredible. No, I can't believe how much, I've just learned about you from, we've known each other for a while. I feel like I
Yeah.
feel like I know your family. I feel like I know your business life, but I
Yeah.
had no idea any of that background.
Yes.
And it's really incredible to hear and get to know you.
Yes.
My follow-up question is just expanding a little bit more on what it was like growing up. So tell us about your childhood and what growing up was like.
Oh my gosh. I feel like my parents, oh my gosh, I felt like they gave us such a beautiful childhood.
Yeah.
And then when I started to experience life, it was like the world. I mean, there was so much love
Hmm.
that, we were, saturated in our community, in our surroundings. My parents really, some people would call it sheltered, but they really just were very intentional to make sure that, we cultivated our faith. My dad, at the time my parents got married, my dad was like a young elder, he's a young preacher guy.
Yeah.
And later he became a pastor. Years later, he became an assistant pastor in another church. And then he opened up his own church later on. And so we grew up in a faith community that was very intimate, very small, and just really within our culture too. A lot of
Hmm.
like small African American faith based community, and we learned to love. We learned, the love that Jesus walked in, and all these things. And education was really big. My dad always pushed
Hmm.
family. My dad catered and he cooked and he barbecued for the
Ooh.
whole community. We fed the homeless. We fed the community. I
Mm.
mean, it's so funny because my sister just had this event where she honored my dad, and as well as every other world changer
Mm.
event that she had. And she gave honor to we were able to give my dad a service award. And my sister was just talking about the things that were most important in our home, which was, education, which was
Mhm.
family and faith. Those are the
Mhm.
most important things. And I
Yes.
just remember she was recounting the time, like, we would have to get up at like 5 in the morning to fix food, to finish off the preparation when we were going out to feed the homeless. And honestly, you have to think it was 7 of us, right?
Mm.
And so oftentimes it was a lot of the girls because my brothers were older and sometimes they were off doing their thing. But we would have to fix sandwiches and different food and different things, and we would be tired. I just be honest, we were kids and we were exhausted, and we just wanted to like honestly be in the bed and just, you know what
Yes,
I mean?
of
We wanted
course.
to help, but we were also sleepy and like, and these
Mhm.
were over the weekends after being in school all week, right? And so my dad, though, he took such pride in serving, the unsheltered and the ones that did not have, with so
Mhm.
much pride. And he taught us to do the same. He said, fix that sandwich like it's your own. And he would even look at and go through and do a quality control check to make, I'm so serious, Carrie.
I
And now
love
I
it.
know what it is. I didn't know what it was then. I thought he was just trying to ruin my life. But he wanted to make
Uh,
sure
yeah.
that, the cheese was put it on correctly. The mayonnaise, the mayo looked presentable, that it wasn't hanging off and looking like you didn't care about it.
Yeah.
Everything you do it with love, you do it with honor, you do it with grace, you do it with attention to detail. And then, so that was one aspect. And then another was, I was the child that I wanted to explore things that my other sisters and brothers were, wasn't sure they wanted to explore. So, I wanted to break out of, our norms
Yes.
all the time. And so my parents, they were for it, but they were cautious.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but they saw something in me. And what I love about them is that they trusted that gift and that desire that they saw in me very early, and they let me take them on adventures into places they've never been,
Mhm.
and with people that they'd never been around. And they supported me. I wanted to be an actress. At one point, I wanted to be an
Oh,
actress.
yes.
I wanted to major in fine arts and minor in mathematics. And then it switched
Mhm.
somewhere after I went to classes and I was supposed to get these headshots and go to San Francisco and do all these auditions. And I was in this class and I was preparing, and it just dawned on me I could see the road ahead, and acting would require a lot of passion, a lot of dedication. And even at 12, I don't know where that came from. There was an understanding of the weight of that desire
Mhm.
and if it was really what I wanted to do. And I think that's why I said, I don't think this is going to be for me. I think I want to
Mhm.
pursue mathematics. I want to pursue the more academic side
Yeah.
and minor in fine arts. And I made the switch and I never went back to that studio, that acting class
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
And here we are. And I'm so grateful that I feel like I made the right choice for me. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And even making that switch, right? That is that bravery and that adventurous spirit that you just told us about, to have the courage to do that, right? To completely
Mm,
do a 180 and take a
yeah.
different path than you had thought. I think that adventurous spirit is probably what brings the two of us together, at least in part. we
Yes,
get it. We get it. And we support each other on that journey.
for
But you
sure.
did bring up, you brought up these very distinct values that you were raised with: education,
Hmm.
family, faith. And
Yeah.
interestingly, while I haven't heard about your upbringing, I would have known and guessed all of those. I see them in your life
Mm,
today, right?
thank
Your
you.
business is focused around education and supporting education for learners, for kids, for families. Family is such a big, huge part of your life. And the first time I met you,
Yeah.
it was in very short order that I met your youngest daughter, and then I think your husband, and then saw pictures of the other girls. And faith
That's
just
right.
comes through in every day, right? In everyday
Yes.
conversations, and so, I
Yes.
mean, it's beautiful that you articulated that, and those were strong values that you recognize being raised with, and that you very much take forward today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm grateful to my parents. Everything that they poured in really was the catalyst for me to,
Yeah,
leave the nest and become, all that I believe, I was created to become. And I'm really, really grateful they created a safe space for us to grow and to learn. And there were even times in my adulthood where they would have to, even after my husband and I got married, we were 21 when we got married. My parents would have to come over to the apartment. I would have them pray with me because I'd be crying because, now it's the realities of life. And even though they
hmm
raised us in such an intentional space, those stressors didn't take me out, but I was strengthened from what was placed inside of me.
yes.
But I needed to learn that about myself. And so I'm really grateful for what they deposited.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
for
amazing.
sure.
I
Yeah.
know this is a theme that will come back up. We will. I want to jump in and hear about more about your husband and your marriage. But while we're on childhood, switching the
Yes.
tone slightly, what are some of the funniest moments that you remember?
Okay. So I have to tell you this. Oh my God. This is such a fun conversation. Oh my God. I feel so wow. I never take time to like just totally look at the whole picture. This is so cool. Oh my gosh. Heart pounding for you. Okay, so so me and my sister Naisha, okay,
hmm
she is, so I have three older brothers and then there's four sisters that I grew up with. Now, later on, I'm gonna tell you, my parents added to our family and extended and adopted more kids. So, okay, so it's 13 of us total,
Okay.
which I think is an absolute blessing. I just think that their calling is raising children. But let me tell you this funny story. Let me go back to it. So my sister Naisha and I, she's my father's that raised me, his
Mhm.
daughter, his oldest daughter. So we're born in the same year. So I just want to kind of paint
Mm.
the picture. that we are close in age. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So she's a January baby. I'm an October baby. Okay. So we're pretty close in age. And oftentimes we were in the same grade at the same time. So,
Yeah.
later on we dated friends too. So, anyways, so we share a room. So we're young at this time, right? So my parents, spare the rod, you spoil a child. Okay. So let's just, again, I'm raised in a faith driven home. And this is like back in the day where kids
Mm-hmm.
got spankings. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so we're in the room and my sister Naisha is talking to me about, she's telling me a story of she went to the fair. She was telling me of something funny that happened to her when she went to the fair. So we're laughing. I'm laughing. It is like really late at night. Everybody is supposed to be asleep. Me and Aisha would always have like she knew how to make me laugh. Like I would laugh out loud and she knew how to contain herself. I was the one that was uncontrolled and she was the one controlled. So she's telling me a story and I'm laughing and I have an outburst. My dad goes, "Hey, you guys cut that noise out there. You guys be quiet. Go to sleep." No, no, no. So I think the first time what happened, they heard us laughing and then we both got in trouble. So we both got in trouble and we both got a whooping and sent back to our rooms. So then she says something. So we got quiet for a minute. Then she says something else. And she kept saying the words that were making me laugh. And I mean, I'm like rolling. I'm like laughing so hard that I'm crying. So then by the next time I laugh out, I outburst again. And my dad goes, "Who is that in there laughing?" And I said, "Naisha." Like I yelled out her name. And so it was my
Uh,
mom that whooped us the first time. The second time, it woke my dad up. And when I said Naisha, she got another whooping.
oh.
She got, she got
Oh.
another whooping. She had two whoopings that night. She got her butt
You didn't
spanked.
come
And
clean before?
I did not I did not. And I promise you, she was mad at me for so long. Well, I'm going to say it didn't last too long because I was always getting her in trouble. like,
I love it.
but we laugh about it now. I mean,
Oh.
like that is the story in the family. Like, I feel like she should be here telling the story because she tells it so much better than I do. But she's like, boy, that Deanna put me through so much, but I just love her. She always put me through so much, and then she knew how to make me laugh, and you just couldn't help. So, anyways, that's
Oh.
one of the many funny stories that we have kind of growing up. Yeah,
Wow, I love
yeah,
that. And I get the sense that you were a great actress even at that time.
yeah,
Even if you didn't pursue it, you had it in you. You
yes.
had them all fooled.
Oh man, I am so grateful. Oh, for grace and growing up, and I was a little complicated for my brothers and sisters. Like I kept them. I was tattletelling. I was keeping them. You didn't follow the rules. That was me too. Like
Yeah.
they didn't want, you're the tattleteller and like Deanna is the one that's, oh, she wants everybody to be on what their needs. So that was totally me
Part of
growing
who
up.
you
I
were.
was like very, yeah, and I was a very smart alecky. I didn't do a lot of like, sneaking off and, doing those sort of things. But I was a very mouthy kid. I was very smart alecky.
Yeah.
Well, why this? Well, what about this? You know what I mean? I was totally,
Yeah.
that was my thing.
Well, maybe you were inquisitive and looking for purpose.
Yeah. Thank you,
I know.
Carrie.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
That's my story and I'm sticking with it.
Oh, that line makes me think of my grandmother, who was an amazing, strong, wonderful woman, and she said that a lot. That's my story, and I'm sticking
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah, I'm sticking to it. There we go,
And
Grandma.
she
There
did.
we go.
All
Yep.
right. So we learned a little bit about your childhood. I mean, if we had hours, I would ask you everything. But let's shift over into going to school. And I have a
Yeah.
feeling that this was really integral in carving out your path for your career. Obviously, the direction
Mm.
you chose to go in, and maybe some of your personal life as well. So tell us about that.
Yeah. Let me just first say my mother was very critical, vital part of my success growing up and helping. me press through boundaries.
Okay.
So in middle school, we lived in a kind of, rough area, we grew up like, as I would say, in the hood, and the middle school I was at, not a lot of kids, like some kids were advancing, but not a lot of kids that looked like me and that were female
Mm-hmm.
were in advanced courses. And so it was sixth grade when my math abilities
Mm-hmm.
were being noticed, and particularly noticed by my parents too. And my mom saw that the math that I was doing and the work that I was doing it was too easy for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so my brother, who also has like really, he is very, very intelligent in math and he was very advanced in math. He was older than me and he was in higher level math. And I was able to do his math and I wanted to be doing his
Mm-hmm.
level of math. And so my mom, I asked my teacher about being able to get into a higher class, and he seemed to like not even entertain it. And so my mom came up to the school, and I just want you to imagine a Southern Black woman, like, advocating for her child. At that time, just what she
Yes.
comes from, she's advocating, she's passionate. And for me, I wasn't raised in the South, even though my
Yeah.
mom's from the South. I'm raised in California, and I have this heart for everybody, and my mom does too, but she has stories that I don't have. She has lived experiences that I don't have. And so it was a bit like, calm down, mom. We're just wanting to get a test here. So
Got
like,
it.
and now I can look back and understand
Yeah.
that, she has lived experiences, she has perspective, she has that are catered to where she's come from, that she's bringing into today to progress, make sure her daughter, get these opportunities. And so, while I didn't understand it, it worked. So
Yeah. Yeah.
this teacher just took an ear and they gave me an opportunity to take this exam, but it was done in such a way that it did not feel, and as it now, mind you, I want to paint the picture of these pieces because this matters for later, but that I'm a young kid and I'm like super positive. I want everybody to, I believe the best of everyone. And I'm going through this experience where now I'm like, I've always liked to explore and push the boundaries. And now I'm seeing adults and how adults are navigating a kid
Mm-hmm.
and how adults are doing this. And it felt like I took the test, and the teacher that gave me the test, it felt as if she wasn't rooting for me to succeed. She just
Mm-hmm.
wasn't looking at the rules of like, does she know it or does she not know it? It was more of like, you don't belong here. Like, you don't, and that was my
Mm-hmm.
first experience like that. And so what my mom did is she saw the skills, but she also saw the tension that was there. She wanted me to be able to have an environment to thrive.
Yeah.
And she moved me into a school in my aunt's school district because our school district was, obviously it just wasn't set up to receive the type of student that I was, and where I wanted to go. And so my mom moved me, and from there, I remained in that school district all the way through until I graduated high school and went to college. But what happened is that I got into the advanced math courses, and that began to open up my mind about my brain and what I can do, and the teachers, the amazing teachers that I had that
Mm-hmm.
just wanted to teach great minds, regardless of where they're coming from. They just wanted to
Mm-hmm.
teach great minds. And so I just had such an appreciation for the advocacy that my mom gave, but also for these
Yes.
amazing teachers and human beings that just taught the class, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And really navigated their own biases so that it wouldn't get in the way. And so, so high school, I went on, and when I got into geometry, Carrie, algebra thrived, did my thing. Geometry was the first math course that stomped me because, usual spatial
Mm-hmm.
skills was just very different. And I got my first F in math, and it perplexed me.
Yes.
And I never questioned. Now, because we were like considered, church girls, and we looked like we dressed like little House on the Prairie kids. So I was used to looking different.
Okay.
I was used to dressing different. So being different wasn't a bad thing to me. It was just what I was.
Yeah.
I did not question if I could learn the math. My curiosity became, how do I learn? Maybe my brain is different, because when I'm engaging with my friends that have A's and B's in this course, we're having great, thoughtful conversations, and I'm able to have those conversations. So it's not my brain. You know what I mean? I'm fully capable. I thought that everyone thought that way. You know what I mean? And so it was never a question of if. And so when I went back into the course, I did do some things differently. So I identified a young woman at my church that was taking calculus. And so I did get some support. So my parents had 7 kids. So private tutoring was very, they couldn't afford that. So we had to find ways. I also sat closer. I did things different. I was very curious about how this worked. Like, I was very, very curious. And then when I went back into the course and I got an A in the class, Carrie, oh my God. It was like the boundaries, it was like I was always seeking to have wings and not shackles in whatever I was doing. And I find myself, even in my culture of my team, doing that for other people here. Right. And so when I found those wings, by identifying how my unique brain learned, I was like, I majored in math. I wanted to be a CPA. And then I had a teacher, an amazing, amazing teacher, tell me about the career of an actuary. So then I searched it, and I was like, CPA, because I was on the CPA thing for a long time, because it integrated with business too. And so then I just, I said, okay, actuarial work looks like it gives you much more diversity, much more depth and respect, and the pay was pretty good.
That's right.
So I then, after about 11th grade, I was really focused on becoming an actuary. So then the rest is history. So I graduated. I went to UC Santa Barbara. So I went to a JC first. I got my math degree there because I did not want to leave home and go to a 4-year right away. Also, it was very expensive.
Yep.
And, I had it good at home. I had my little pink canopy bed, and, I got me a little cute little Eclipse with a sunroof and my little pink. If you could just imagine, like, my parents took care of me. Why would I want to leave all of that,
And now for a word from our sponsors. Ready to share your stories and life philosophy, or capture those of a parent or grandparent? Or maybe a corporate package is right for you to build connection across your workforce and add value to your clients. Visit audiolife.io today to learn more. Our listeners will get 10% off using discount code GIFT10 and order number AudioLife Podcast. AudioLife, where memories find their voice.
And then I had all my friends, and I've always had a very international, surrounding of friends. Like, I love learning. I do not want to be limited to anything. I want to learn about others. I want others to learn about me. Like, I love being super connected to the world around me, and I love learning and not being restricted or in fear of, of things, informed, but not in fear. Anyway, so I, went to the JC, got my math degree. And during that time, DeAndre and I, we were dating all through high school. So I'm gonna give you background a little bit. So in high school, while I was pursuing, making sure that I graduate high school with calculus underneath my belt, I had to go to summer school. And when I went to summer school, guess who I met? I met Mr. Hurn. I met DeAndre. His first name is Marvin, but we call him DeAndre as his middle name. And so we met in high school, and I made him wait, until, because I knew he wanted me to be his girlfriend. And so I was like, no, he's going to have to wait a little bit. I have to make sure this is a really good decision. I don't have time to get my heart broken. I don't have time for all this other stuff, because I have goals in life, and I don't want I watched so many other people do things. I just didn't want to jump into it. And so it was almost like hypothesis testing without your life. You kind of do it with other people's lives.
I love it.
So I was a TA. I was this math TA. And so Mr. Newton, I say his name because he came to our wedding. In Mr. Newton's class, about 4 months after we had met and started talking to each other, and my dad really liked him too, on my sister's birthday, November 19th, 99, in the classroom, I officially told him that I would be his girlfriend. And so that's when our relationship started in almost 25 years ago in that class. And we just began dating. And so he, for a second, he went away to college after high school, and I stayed at the JC, and then he ended up coming back. It was really expensive. He got accepted to this really prestigious HBCU, historical Black college. And then he came back to finish. And when he came back to finish, we met back up, and we were just inseparable from that point, because we did kind of break up after that. It was like, I don't know, you might be with other girls while you're, at college. So anyways, we met back up, and we've been married and together, ever since, he came back into California. And we got married when we were 21. So we got married, and we had our first child kind of all wrapped up in one in that same kind of year we got married. And so I had to plan. I wanted to make sure I graduated on time, despite getting married and having a baby. And that's when my program, GPA Makeover, was born. So what I did is I created, down to a science. Okay. I'm telling you, I'm like, oh my God, right. So I created this strategy called syllabus planning, where I would take my syllabuses and I would literally prepare ahead of time for every single class to make sure that I was already ahead of the entire class before it started. And that's what allowed me to graduate on time. Also, I was able to skip math courses, so differential equations, linear algebra, to get into more advanced courses. I'm not going to get too geeky, but anyways, long story short, I started creating academic systems in college to accelerate my college experience in lieu of life happening for me as a young adult. And so I was already intrigued and immersed and curious about the possibilities of how we can bring science into academia in a more practical way to advance ourselves in spite of, things happening. And so, so graduated from UC Santa Barbara with a statistical sciences degree with the focus on actuarial statistics. And because as I was the president of the actuarial club, I was able to obtain several job offers before I even graduated. So I already had a job lined up before I graduated and went into that career. And I'll stop there for now because I can go on. But that career really, honestly, even though I anticipated to be there longer, I needed to stop there because a lot of the data science and forecasting with data that I do in our brain-based model came from my actuarial background. And so I needed those skills, and I needed to engage that in a real world sense to really understand how the theory of what I learned in statistical sciences, my major, played out in the world, to be able to then integrate that into my educational program. So I've never talked about this out loud, but this is cool.
It really has all just, it's a pathway, right? It's a journey that is all linked and it's all connected. And you've had these very, very distinct experiences in school, in younger school, when your mother advocated for you, in high school, and then throughout college and university, and how that informed, right? What you bring is what you experienced yourself, what you uncovered about your brain and your learning, how you systematized it using your analytical mind, how you turned it into a system and strategies, and you bring the emotional side of it, right? You bring the self-awareness, and you bring all of that together. And I can see, and I'm sure as people are getting to know you, they will see how that actually has come to life in the business that you created, how it all came together to be, right? This whole experience that you've had and all of your skills have turned into this. And I will ask you more about your transition from your career as an actuary to what you do today. But I don't want to miss something important that you brought up that's happening along in the background, which is raising children and being a mother. So tell us a little bit about that experience.
I would not have been able to do any of that without having an amazing partner. DeAndre, oh my gosh, I know that, it was divine that our relationship comes together because we're first generation in a lot of things. He went into law enforcement. So, and even though, his dad was in the Navy and military, he was the first to become a police officer in his family. He's from Oakland, California. In the Bay Area, where there's often a lot of challenging and hurtful and painful experiences with law enforcement. But he was able, again, it's just like that redemption of these experiences that our families have had and our, different ones have had, to be able to come and like trailblaze and pioneer these pathways of like healing and wholeness into these spaces. And so, it's something I wear with honor and gratitude. And sometimes you're saying things that people need to hear, to be honest, to understand what healing can look like, but also creating space to listen and to hold those spaces where people need to talk about things that are tough. But when it's you're endearing to them and you're in these spaces and you're the police officer and you're the, in the spaces where there's not a lot of African American women, and you're speaking to the realities of these things, it settles in the realities that go beyond just what you look like. This is kind of the reality of this and that, and there's a lot of different perspectives to consider here, So anyways, having a great partner and then having a wonderful village of support. So this is, I think, my mom, my sisters, we also prayed everywhere we went and we moved, because we literally moved like 5 or 6 times. Yeah. And, my oldest daughter, she'll be 21 this year. She moved every last one of those times with us. Like, it was just like my sweet baby. Yeah. Whereas we have 4 daughters. And so my oldest moved the most with us. So, she moved the most, but my other girls, they had more stability, if you will. They didn't move a lot, and so her experience is just very, very different. We always were really blessed to have really good providers, a care team. So whether it was daycare, whether it was like Montessori school that we did, or whatever it was, there was a caring adult outside of our home that we were able to bring into our village of support, to make sure that they align with our values, they align with what's important that our daughters were getting. And so, that was really, really important for us, and our faith community. So that also helped, like having that as well. And and so even our faith community kind of morphed into what representative of us. So our faith community, became like super international looking and very diverse and, all these things, which is really amazing, but still holding those values of faith, which is, I think, is the coolest thing. So I think with raising the girls, it was just having a wonderful village of support and making sure that those that are in your village reflect your values for your children. And and the things that, that's important for you to ensure that they have as they're growing up, with you. And my girls oftentimes, even especially Ramaya, she came with me to places too. So, you see me, you see my kids, you know what I mean? So a lot of times I wanted them to see the journey and be a part of what I was doing. Just like, Carrie, like when you and I met too, we were speaking at a conference, I think in Vegas, and you saw the whole family, like, you know what I mean?
I did.
They came to support and get the award, and like, they're off in the pool having a good time where we're like speaking and doing stuff, but checking in and coming in, and like, I want them to see and be a part of it and have that exposure, meet different people, and so, so does that kind of help a little bit?
Meet exotic Canadians, you mean, like me?
everything. And they're like, my mom is so smart. She knows everybody. That's what they think. They feel like I know everybody. My girls, like, mommy knows everybody. I'm like, no, I don't know
because
everybody.
you're community focused and people know and recognize you and hear you and see the vision you put
Yeah.
forward. Yeah. And because you're their mom and you're the center of their
Yes.
world.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, for
Well,
sure.
thank you for sharing that. Let's talk about, back to, you talked about your educational, I'll call it a career, your educational career, and
Yes.
and all of the really important lessons that helped to shape the path that took.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got a career even before you had graduated. You had job offers to entertain. It was a
Yes.
job that was you were well suited towards. It was
Mm-hmm.
interesting to you. It brought a lot to your life.
Yes.
But today, it's not what you do. Today, you are the founder and CEO at MMC, or Miracle Math Coaching. So how did that happen?
I know. I asked myself the same question. I'm like, what? Like, and it happened sooner than I anticipated. I think I always had it in my heart that one day I wanted to be a motivational speaker and I wanted to
Mm,
somehow do some things in education. But it was much more, to be perfectly honest, I would just be thinking about getting started had I had it my way, right? I'm 41 years old today. And I would have started maybe even later. Actually, I was thinking to start maybe in my 50s, is what I was thinking, because I wanted to, this is my plan, okay? I wanted to build out my whole career as an actuary, go through all my actuarial exams, because it's a professional career with exams and things like that. And I really established myself corporately and then do all these other things. And that was the plan. But no, I had about maybe 2, 3 years in corporate, and I did not feel like my skills were being maximized in terms of impact. I felt like
mhm,
I made good money. I feel like you had power and respect because
mhm,
you walk into a room and literally, not only are you the youngest person in the room,
mhm.
you are also the only female. You are the only person in there that has the numbers. And
Yes.
you get to actually say if we are going to submit to the Department of Insurance, if the rates in your area are going to be raised or decreased. And lots of
Yeah.
agents, do you think brokers and all of that, they want you to lower the rates as much as possible? And if insurance or your actuarial findings does not dictate that, you get to say if that's going to happen or not, right? But that was not fulfilling for me. It wasn't about power. It wasn't about prestige. It wasn't about money. It was really about, am I utilizing my skills, my background to make the difference that I truly want to make in life? And so
Mhm.
I did not know that I would ask myself this question at 25. And it perplexed me. And I remember saying to one of my supervisors, her name was Angel. Go figure. Her name was
Mm.
Angel.
Love.
And I said, Angel, I have never not known what I wanted to do. And she said, it's not that you don't know what you want to do, you just may not have given yourself permission to do the thing that you truly want to do.
Yes.
And I think it was in that time that I honestly feel like it was divine. I felt like God put
Yeah.
those words in her mouth, like
Yeah.
literally put those words in her mouth. That is when I get literally in that moment when she said that, I literally gave myself permission to leave the actuarial career and leave wearing that hat, even though I'm still an actuary, but I'm in education, or a former, acting actuary, but
Yeah.
still using data science, still forecasting, still doing it. But I'm doing that with the amazing minds and brains and data that we get from all of our students. And so that is when I left the company that I was working for in Marin County at the time here in California. And I, talked to my husband, who was, full time, full duty at that time with the Highway Patrol. And he supported me.
Yeah.
He literally, there was no hesitation. He 100% supported me. And so, being a very methodical systems person, I went and started to search for a framework to help me get started to look at the
Mm-hmm.
business. And then I started to understand how to cast vision. And because I didn't think I was a creative person at all. I mean, like now, creation is and innovation is so fun to me. But I didn't think I was a creative person at all at the time. It was just everything is in the lines. It needs to go with the formula. It needs to be very methodical, that sort of thing. But anyways, that is when I transitioned from that kind of corporate to coming into entrepreneurship and starting my own business. But looking at my dad said this to me, and I love my dad so much because he reads a lot of books and he does he believes in coaching and mentorship. And he said to me though, the thing that God called you to do, he's also going to equip you to do. So he's like, if you're called to be a singer, but you can't hold a note.
Yeah.
It's like that doesn't flow. What
Yeah.
God truly called you to do is going to be your passion, and you're also going to have the skills. You know what I mean? And the gifting to
Mm-hmm.
match that. And so it was like, what am I passionate about? Like,
Yes.
super just love to do. I do it without even thinking, but I'm also truly good at. Like, I don't even have to
Yes.
try. You know what I mean? Like, I can go and sharpen it, but I'm already pretty good at it.
Yes.
And that was motivating people, and that was thinking mathematically for me because, see, I actually tutored all through college. So it was another thing. I tutored, taught, I did all of that. I was always a TA all through high school and college. And so I that's what I did is I went back to the things that I'm already doing. And I was already currently engaging in like summer camps. So GPA makeover boot camp. I engaged in that even before I left corporate. I
Mm-hmm.
started the first camp that the mayor supported, and we put out a little ad in the paper, I kid you not, about that big. And we had nearly 100 kids show up.
Wow.
And I literally, at that point, I mean, honestly, I just graduated from college not too long ago. I put on this camp, all these kids are showing up, and I put together a team all through the church volunteers.
Mm.
And this pastor let me do this youth program. And I already had partners that I developed and built in other cities. And
Yeah.
I engaged them to bring in practical like finance and money and how we can make things fun and engaging for the kids. And I literally, and I did not know about these skills within myself because other than that, I was in college. I
Yeah.
was the class president, for the actuary club. But other than that, I had never assembled anything like this before. And it was just extremely successful. And I think that's when I started to just learn more about, sort of like a Marvel movie. You have these superpowers and you have to get to know them. You're like, what is that? They just can't, what is
Yes.
that? If I do that
Yes.
again, oh my God. And then when you learn what those superpowers are, then you could be intentional and also poised
Mm-hmm.
and knowing how to be a good steward of those things.
Yeah.
Right. And so anyhow, but yeah.
Oh, that's so incredible. It's the real influences and truth behind the origin story, the important people along the way. So you had angel position to encourage you to give yourself permission to explore. Your father there to say, you know what, if it's your calling, you will know what it is, and you will be equipped, and you will have the skills to do it. It's really it all just fits together so perfectly. You've had these important people giving you the right advice at the right time in your journey. What advice do you have for younger generations, whether it's learners that are coming to your center, whether it's the young Deanna that's on her path and isn't giving herself permission to think about something different, whether it's your own daughters, your own children? What advice do you have?
Yeah. You know what? I think of that, and I believe it was Shakespeare that said this: most above all, to thine own self be true.
Yes. Oh, I love it.
You know what I mean? For me, it was really cultivating the faith within me, cultivating the voice of faith within me, and trusting that peace and that voice and that intuition.
Yes.
Some people might even say gut,
Yes.
inside of you. I think most of the great coaches and mentors that I have around me, they never tell me what to do.
Yeah.
They know great questions to ask me. So, I look at it like this, right? when you plant an apple tree, right? The tree is in the seed,
Mm-hmm.
right? You
Mm-hmm.
don't give it the apples. You don't, it's already in the seed. You
Mm-hmm.
just have to put the seed in the right soil, right? And so I think everything that I'm doing right now, whether it's, my husband and I, we do things with couples, and then we have education, and then we have our family stuff, everything that we're involved in. I say it's seed, soil, and harvest, right? So trust what's in your seed. Get to know that. And a lot of times it's already in you. So cultivate that.
Yes.
And I think another piece is, and I want to say this for me, guys, like this is my view of and what my experience has been in how I've become the person and I'm growing, the person I'm evolving into constantly
Mm-hmm.
is we're a 3-part being. We have a soul, we have a body, right? We have a spirit. And I have literally been around every, different person that has different types of faith, whether they're agnostic, whether they're atheist, whether they're Christian, every part, right? And I'm always who I am around them. And there's a piece that we have in being together, even though we may come from those different spaces, but I think we all get to see it and acknowledge that it is very important for us to see and feed the different parts of our being.
Yeah. That's wonderful.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much truth there. And thank you for sharing that. And
Yeah.
I wish we could talk all day, but as that's true.
Yes.
I would love to, and
For
there's so
sure.
much
I
more that
love
I want to
talking to you.
hear. But as we
Yes.
wrap up this session, is there anything else that you want to share that we haven't touched on?
I first want to just express extreme gratitude for creating this space to even reflect on me and my life and what my journey has been. I think oftentimes you're creating forward,
Mm-hmm.
that there's also momentum building and equity in looking and reflecting back to understand how that was to propel you forward. And I'm really, really grateful for you creating this space. If there's anything that I want to share, I think it's important to heart and brain, the brain and the heart. They were created they have very different functions. And oftentimes, I myself have found myself conflicted on do I listen to my head or do I listen to my heart? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what do I do? And oftentimes they're going like this because the heart is giving you one perspective and the head is giving you a whole nother one.
Yes.
But I just want to encourage, if you're out there and you're listening to this and you have your next step or you're constantly leveling up, I just want to say that it is very important that we both think with our brains,
Yes.
but we lead with our hearts.
Yes. What a wonderful note to end on.
Yeah.
And honestly, today you could be speaking directly to me. So I know that that's going to reach the people that it needs to. Deanna,
Yeah.
I want to thank you so much for taking the time to share your story with me and with us today. I will say I've always found you inspirational, whether you're presenting a keynote on a huge stage or whether we're just having a casual chat on Zoom or text. I always hear the passion in your voice. I see the vision that you carry and that you carry for your company and for learners and for their parents. And I've always heard the love that you carry for your family and for your faith. And that came out both explicitly and implicitly today. So being able to capture all of this in an AudioLife conversation was very special for me. And I just want to thank you for taking the time to join us.
Well, thank you for having me. And I appreciate what you're doing through AudioLife. I think this is amazing. And I look forward to having my mom and different members of my family to really take advantage of what you're providing in the world today. So thank you so much, Carrie.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Deanna. Thank you. Thanks for listening to Audio Life today. I've been your host today, Carrie Purcell. And if you like what we do, please don't forget to subscribe and follow our channel so you get all of our newest episodes.
If you like what you heard today, consider recording your own Audio Life private podcast or giving one to a loved one for a unique and memorable gift. Today, Audio Life listeners will receive 10% off using discount code GIFT10 and order number Audio Life Podcast. Also, remember to rate our show and subscribe so you'll never miss an episode.